Mr. Owens, any other additional witnesses, evidence, or testimony, sir?
No, sir. On behalf of Sarah Boone, the defense rests.
Thank you. Defense, or state, are you intending on putting on a rebuttal case?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed, sir.
Speak with Dr. Tonia Werner.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you should give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
Doctor, good morning. Could you state and spell your name for the record for us?
My name is Tonia, T-O-N-I-A, Werner, W-E-R-N-E-R.
Thank you. You may be seated, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Where do you work?
I'm employed at Meridian Behavioral Health Care in Gainesville, Florida.
And what services do you render there?
I'm their Chief Medical Officer.
And can you tell the jury what your educational background is?
Yes. So I graduated with an undergraduate degree at the University of South Florida in chemistry. I then attended medical school at American University of the Caribbean. I did a residency in psychiatry at Connecticut Valley Hospital in Connecticut under the auspices of Yale University. I then came back to Florida and did a fellowship 1 year in forensic psychiatry at the University of Florida.
And since your educational background, what have you been doing professionally?
Yes. So I'm a licensed physician in Florida. I am board certified in general psychiatry and forensic psychiatry. I was initially employed on faculty at the University of Florida from 1998 through 2015. I retired there as the vice chairman of the Department of Psychiatry and the director of the Forensic Institute. I then went to work as the chief medical officer at Meridian Behavioral Health Care, which is a community mental health center.
What is psychiatry?
So psychiatry is the treatment of mental health disorders.
And what is forensic psychiatry?
Forensic psychiatry is the interplay of psychiatry and the law, so anywhere where psychiatry intersects with legal issues.
What is the difference, if any, between a psychiatrist and a psychologist?
So a psychiatrist has gone to medical school, where a psychologist has not.
And as a licensed physician, are you able to prescribe medication?
Yes, I am.
In the course of practicing medicine as a psychiatrist, do psychiatrists prescribe medication to treat mental disorders?
Yes, we do.
And when did you begin your work as a forensic psychiatrist as opposed to working at the faculty at the University of Florida, or was that concurrent?
In 1996 in the state of Connecticut. While I was doing my training at Yale University, I testified for the first time as an expert witness in the state of Connecticut.
And over the course of your career, have you done forensic psychiatric evaluations?
I have,
Approximately how many?
thousands of times.
And does this include on matters such as competence?
Yes, it does.
And does it, just explain briefly to the jury, what does that mean, legal competence?
So competence is, do they understand the legal process? Do they understand who the different players are in the courtroom, who's on their side, who's not on their side, what they're charged with, what the possible penalties are, what the possible plea options are?
And have you ever done any forensic evaluations about insanity?
I have. I've done sanity at the time of the crime, and also I've been appointed by the governor of the state of Florida to do sanity for execution.
And have you ever been involved in working as a forensic psychiatrist involving the subject matter of battered spouse syndrome.
I have.
Can you describe your experience in that area for the jury?
I've been asked to do evaluations by the prosecution and defense several times with regards to, and it's come up in different cases, criminal cases with regards to intimate partner violence.
And does all violent episodes within a relationship result in something that we are describing as battered spouse syndrome?
No.
And I see there is a book in front of you. What book is in front of you?
Yes. So this is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, and this is the 5th edition text revision, which is the most current edition.
Is battered spouse syndrome in there as a diagnosis?
No, it is not.
And where, if anywhere, does it fit into any of the categories within the DSM-5 TR?
It would come under one of the trauma categories, most specifically under most likely post-traumatic stress disorder.
Can you describe for the jury what post-traumatic stress disorder is?
So this is a disorder that's recognized under the DSM for individuals who have suffered a traumatic event, and then they have re-experiencing of the traumatic event. They have different symptoms besides re-experiencing, such as hyperarousal, and also avoidance of triggers or symptoms, things that would trigger a response to it.
Are there any agreed upon criteria within the relevant forensic psychiatric and forensic psychological communities about battered spouse syndrome?
There are.
And what would those be?
So it's again, having experienced a trauma, repeatedly, violence within an intimate relationship, and then having symptoms secondary to that, avoidance, so tiptoeing around, trying to avoid recreating the violence.
And if a person experiences an environmental stimuli, something happens to them, another person does or says something to them, is their subjective reaction what is defined as whether there's trauma present or not?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Let me rephrase it.
You can rephrase.
Calls.
You described there's a difference between experiencing a violent relationship and whether or not that person is going to experience trauma from those behaviors they witness and experience. Is that fair?
Yes.
Now I've lost my train of thought. Is it fair to say that an experience that a person has, whether or not that person believes it's traumatic, is a subjective experience?
Yes, each individual is different, and so each individual is going to take that experience differently.
Can hypothetically a couple be involved in a violent relationship for a number of years, even 3.5 years, and battered spouse syndrome not necessarily apply to either or both of them?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you explain that?
So again, each individual is different. So one individual may develop the symptoms of battered spouse syndrome, and one individual may not under the same exact circumstances, just depending on their makeup and what they've experienced in their background and their biological makeup.
And is there a cycle of violence that is sometimes used to describe battered spouse syndrome?
There is.
Can you describe that?
There is. So there's the initial, there's kind of a tension buildup section where you feel the kind of tension building up, and the individual can feel kind of the incident coming, and then there's the actual incident of violence. And then following the incident of violence, there's a honeymoon phase, what they call the honeymoon phase, and that's the third phase, where the individual who created the violence attempts to make up to the victim and recreate kind of the relationship and pull them back in. And then it starts all over again where you feel the kind of tension start building up again to the incidents of violence.
Does abuse have to come in the form of physical or sexual violence?
No.
Can you explain your answer?
So it can also come in ways of coercion. It can come in ways of control, such as financial. So if an individual controls another individual financially, or controls their ability to drive or go out, their ability to be around their other family members or friends, kind of isolates them from other individuals, controls their ability to work. So controls their ability to make money or access to funds, so they can control them in any number of ways.
Is this kind of about like an inequitable power dynamic in the relationship?
Yes, absolutely.
Can a man be on the receiving end of emotional or physical or sexual trauma and potentially experience, strike that. Can a man be on the receiving end of verbal, harsh words, physical violence, or sexual violence, and end up having the syndrome of battered spouse syndrome?
Yes, it crosses all boundaries, and we see it in all types of relationships, whether it be heterosexual or homosexual relationships. We see it cross all boundaries.
And can this element of control come from controlling personal items such as identification papers?
Yes, absolutely.
Can control potentially, hypothetically, come from partner A gifting partner B an item, but still considering that item partner A's because he or she paid for it, even though it was a gift?
Yes.
And in this particular case, were you asked to do an evaluation of Sarah Boone?
Yes,
Do you see Ms. Boone in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you point out where she is and what she's wearing?
She's sitting at a table there, wearing a dark suit and a pinkish top.
May the record reflect she's identified the defendant.
Record will so reflect.
What date did you have an evaluation of Ms. Boone?
It was early in October, I believe October 2nd.
And this was at the request of the state of Florida
Yes, it was.
and subject to a court order?
Yes.
And who was present for this evaluation?
The defense and the prosecution.
All right. Tell us about the evaluation with Ms. Boone. What do you do first?
So I met with Ms. Boone at the jail in a conference room. Again, the prosecution was there and her attorney. I met with her for approximately 2.5 hours, just under 2.5 hours. I introduced myself and explained that the interview would not be confidential, that I would be coming to court if asked to share my opinions. And she agreed to participate. I then start out with just general information, so getting to know her, date of birth, kind of background information, who her parents are, childhood. I go through her educational background, her work background, her marital background. I go through health, psychiatric background, any substance use issues. I do a mental status examination.
Can I stop you there?
Yeah.
Elaborate further on that.
So a mental status examination is just questions to determine kind of memory and cognition, kind of how their thought process is, how they're thinking. Are they able to kind of fluidly think through processes?
All right, go on after that.
And then I transitioned from there into walking through the incident that happened with her.
All right, what did she indicate occurred on February 23rd, 2020 to you?
All right. Is it all right if I refer to my notes just a minute?
Just, if you need them to refresh your memory, please do so, but don't read from them. Just let us know.
So she had a difficult time recalling what time they actually woke up that day. Initially, she said in the morning, and then she said she wasn't even sure that it was in the morning. She said that they both wanted to drink, but that she asked that they could clean the house first instead, and that they did some vacuuming and cleaning. They had half a bottle of wine left over from the day before that they drank. She felt about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They drank that out on the back porch. And she described that they had kind of 2 beach chairs out there and a dartboard, and that they kind of hung out there a lot on the back porch, spent time out there. They did a puzzle out there and completed that, and then did some kind of artwork. She felt like he was getting frustrated thinking about his life, that he had lost his job. And so she encouraged him to call his daughters, although she knew that that they did not like to talk to him when he was drinking. So I'm not sure why she had encouraged him to call them at that point, because they were already drinking. And she also at some point encouraged him to call his brother, because she wanted him to explain to his brother that he had pulled her down the stairs the night before, although that didn't happen. He didn't explain that to the brother, and according to her. And then at some point they went and got another bottle of wine and some cigarettes from the grocery store and continued to drink. And then they were inside the house, and then he, I guess, tagged her at some point and said, "Tag, you're it," which indicated that they were going to play hide and seek. And she said she went upstairs and hid in the shower and waited for him to come, and he never came upstairs. Excuse me. And so she eventually came out of the shower to look for him, and as she was coming down the stairs, she said she saw him slipping into a suitcase, which was on the living room floor, that they had put out because they were going to donate it. And, sorry. And so she went downstairs and indicated that she had found him, and they were kind of laughing, and she zipped the suitcase up. And they continued to laugh, she said, at that point. And they were having a good time and laughing and enjoying themselves and having a good time. And she said, and then she became angry. And she said she remembered what it felt like when he was choking her. And she became angry.
What did she do after she became angry?
I'm going to refer to my notes at this point.
If you refresh your memory, just
Yes.
put them down and then tell us what you remember.
She said that she shook the suitcase and that she lost control of it and it flipped.
And then what happened?
Then she said that he stuck 2 fingers out, and her son's baseball bat was sitting there, and she picked the bat up and hit his hand.
Then what happened?
And then she went upstairs and waited for him to come upstairs.
All right. Alcohol. Can you tell us what you know about the effects as a medical doctor of ethanol or alcohol on a human body?
Yes. So it causes intoxication, as we all know, and it causes disinhibition. It works on the frontal lobe of the brain and allows us to do things that we wouldn't normally do. It disinhibits us.
And in the course of your practice, have you ever come across a diagnosis of alcohol abuse disorder?
Yes.
And what is that?
Well, alcohol abuse is an old disorder. So we used to use alcohol dependence and alcohol abuse. It's now been combined in the DSM-5. In the DSM-5 TR, it's alcohol use disorder.
In considering what a patient or a client or somebody that you've been asked to evaluate by a government entity, do you take into account that person who's relaying the history to you a consumption of alcohol at the time of the history that they're given?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because again, it affects their behavior and their actions.
Does alcohol have any effect on a person's memory?
It can.
What, if any, relationship is there between acute alcohol use or acute alcohol intoxication and battered spouse syndrome?
Again, it can affect your memory, it can affect your reactions, it can affect your response to different things.
Does the disinhibitory nature of alcohol strengthen, weaken, or have no effect on battered spouse syndrome?
It would depend on each individual again.
Generally speaking, it is important as an evaluator to get as much information as possible before rendering an opinion, such as diagnosing somebody with something out of the DSM-5, TR, or battered spouse syndrome.
Yes.
In this particular case, did you require any additional information to reach your conclusion about the relationship between battered spouse syndrome and the events of this evening?
I based my opinion on the information that I had. Certainly, if there was more information, my opinion would be subject to change.
And what was your opinion?
My opinion was that she did not give me enough information to diagnose her with post-traumatic stress disorder at the time that I evaluated her at the jail.
And specifically talking about...
Judge, if we could approach the bench.
Yes. Members of the jury, thank you so much for your patience. I have a matter I have to discuss with counsel outside of y'all's presence. It may take a little bit more time than just our conference up here, and we don't want to have y'all just hanging out waiting for us to figure out what we're going to do next. So I appreciate your patience. We're going to excuse you to the deliberation room at this time. Please do not conduct any independent investigation or research as to the person, places, things, or charge involved, and do not have any conversations amongst yourselves or anyone else about those things, and we'll bring you back in as promptly as possible. Thank you.